Good afternoon. We shall start with history. Who are the Nyonyas? You know? Nyonyas are actually female descendants of early Chinese settlers. They are early Chinese settlers who later became wealthy enough to create a local hybrid culture with some Thai, Indonesia, and even Burmese influences. It's actually the lifestyle of the rich and famous. We are all descendants of them. Many Penangites. I was born and raised in Penang, so I'll share more of the Penang culture. Became very Anglophile. And we have the British to thank them. Well, we're going to tell you a little bit about growing up as a Nyonya. Okay? We are ethnically Chinese, so children are taught from young to address elders according to the proper Chinese hierarchy system. It includes social behavior, etiquette, protocol at all times, paying respect during ancestral worship, appropriate behavior while visiting and receiving elders. You know, there are certain things that you are taught to do from young. You know, your mother would say, you know, you have to call this, you have to, you know, how to greet. And then, and also during celebrations like Chinese New Year, what to do, you know, or during bereavement, at somebody's funeral, somebody's wake, they are all followed. And even at meal times, before you can sit and eat, you know what you have to do. That's what it's in trade of what to do. While many skills are actually taught, I also learned by being observant. How little fingers, you're taught to tail bean sprout, you know? Your bean sprouts, you have to tail them. That's how you were taught as a little Nyonya. You're taught how to peel onions, how to peel garlic, and then graduated to pounding, chopping, slicing. And I was actually my family's representative. And I'm always sent to my grandparents' kitchen before any ancestral worship. That's where you learn. You know, as a little girl, grandma will tell you, or your aunties will tell you how to do a lot of things. One of them was just, you know what a stone mill is? Batu bowl, we call it, stone mill is. Yeah, and as a little child, during certain festivals, you need rice flour. So the soaked rice, so you are told to spoon soaked rice into the hole of the batu bowl and the top, and then some elder will be moving the stone on top, you know, in the motion, in the circular motion, to get your rice made into flour, you know, that kind of thing. There was also a certain way to pound your sambal, your rompa, and then mastering the batu gili. You know how to do that? Yeah, you're taught from young. While there were maids, and sometimes in those days, even Hainanese chef, we call them chompo. My mother actually told me that to be the mistress of any household, you have to know enough to give instructions. So you won't be bullied. Your maids don't tell you, oh, this is this. No. You're the mistress of the house, you don't have to do it, but you know how to give instructions. I learned to cook through observations, and also, you know how Nyonya cooking is, it's all agar-agar. Right? So you just have to develop, you know, and learn all those things, observation, and eventually I developed a style. and a palette for our unique cuisine when I had a home of my own. I married a Baba. I learned needlework actually in primary school. Oh, we had the French nuns and all those things in the convent. But I was taught by my mother to stitch your batik into a tubular sarung. You know, batik, we use Indonesian batiks most of the time. It comes in a flat sheet, but then you have to sew it into a tubular shape to wear the sarung. So that was like tiny stitches using top sewing with white thread. So it kept on. I'd still do it, but not with white thread. And I later learned how to knit, to crochet, to embroider, and then make tatting lace. You know what tatting lace is? So all Nyonyas, we learn all these things. Nyonya moral values are actually inculcated from young. Virtues like filial piety. Yes, we are very Chinese, observing traditional rites and rituals, and respecting prohibitions. You know, pandang larang, yes, taboos. Yes, we are taught those things from young, so you don't commit some sin. You know? Nyonya brings honor to her maiden family by being a good daughter-in-law. You know, your mom is the proudest when she gets feedback from your in-laws that you have been a good daughter-in-law. You bring up, you have to bring up your daughter to be so respectful that you will be the proudest mom. A young Nyonya learns about pantang larang once she reaches puberty. When you're young, you're running all over the place. But once you reach puberty, you can't do this, you cannot do that. You have to sit properly, you have to eat properly, you know, all these things. And as a young bride, you know, as a young bride, you go into your in-laws, make sure you know how to behave. And when you get pregnant, there's so many pantangs, you know, you cannot do this, you cannot that, you cannot go there, you know, where there's something, you know, unclean, when I'm cooking something special, no, when you're pregnant, you cannot go. And also, when she becomes a mother, immediately post-childbirth. Okay, a young Nyonya learns, a Nonya's pride in raising her children is, you know, if her brood is ever branded kurang ajar, yang kasih, my goodness, it's a mother's ultimate shame. You don't know how to bring up your daughter or children or sons. Growing up, I wore what was in trend. Miniskirt, whatever that was in fashion. It's only later that I chose to wear the sarung kebaya for special occasions. You know what I mean? We didn't grow up wearing sarung kebayas. We wore whatever. If you go now and see me at home, I'll be t-shirt and shorts, huh? Sorry, old grandmother, yes. It's only that we dress up, you know, when you are out, you make sure. And I was taught how to tie my sarung traditionally. I still do. I don't send my sarongs with high highs, I don't sew it that way. And also how to pin my croissant. Okay? Well, I love sewing. And I learned to customize my own kebaya. What you see, I make. And then I actually was running a kebaya and sarung business, and hopefully one day I will leave a legacy of conserving my cultural heritage. My grandmother enjoys keroncong music. You know what keroncong music is? My grandmother did that. But my mother was more into Western music. She used to lull us to sleep, you know, with music like It's a Wonderful World, I can't remember now, you know, those Western tunes. I grew up, Cliff Richard, Elvis Presley. Yes, Beatles, that's my time. Actually, my grandmothers will actually turn in their graves to see me joget. It wasn't done. Okay? We didn't joget. It was my father who actually taught me to do the tango. See how old I am? It was my father who actually taught me to do the tango. Of course, I learned how to waltz, I learned how to do rumba, foxtrot, okay? Later in my teens, I was doing jive, rock and roll. Remember those days? So if you tell me to do joget now, it didn't happen then. Being Nyonya, being a Penang Nyonya means knowing how to communicate in Hokkien. The Hokkien, Hokkien dialects like the words like mua. We use te sa, teng sa, tua teng te. You know what that means? Baju panjang, baju pendek, and Nyonya kebaya. And we also call Hua Yang Tin Chang. Right? No Nyonya Chang, huh? Penang is Hua Yang Tin Chang. But we learn, we all can speak colloquial Malay. It was the how we communicated with Ahmad the driver, okay, Kebun the gardener. Do you remember we call those days every driver, Malay driver is called Ahmad, every gardener is called Kebun, yes, and all those who can't otherwise understand. So it was colloquial Malay. A Nyonya is expected to be prim and proper at all times. Above all, a Nyonya is expected to have finesse in her actions and grace in her behavior. It's definitely not by just putting Nyonya, Nya as a prefix before her name. So it doesn't make you a Nyonya just because you put a prefix Nya, okay? So it's a culture. So I've given you what Penang Nyonya, how it was like. Things have changed a lot, but I think Janet wants me to tell you the differences. Okay, let me go to that. Differences between the northern Penang Nonyas and the southerners. Actually, I did this in a colloquium in Penang many years ago. But just to give you, I will take half an hour to tell you, but just to cut it short. History, just to give you a bit of history. Penang was founded in 1786, but early Chinese were already in Kedah and upper regions of Perak. Did you know that? No, we were already there in Penang before Francis Light came. Some migrants actually arrived through Siam. You know, a lot of Thai people are Teochews. Do you know? Yes, we came down from the Yunnan. The Chinese came down from the Yunnan. That was long ago. Okay, we came down from the Yunnan, and some migrants actually arrived also through Burma. Some came direct from China as indented coolies, that kind of thing also. And people who came from Medan, Indonesia. A lot of the Chinese actually came to Indonesia, different parts of Indonesia, before they even arrived in Malaysia. A very good example. Peter, do you mind? Peter, do you mind? Oh no, he wasn't listening. Peter's ancestors came from Asahan through Indonesia to Penang. So if you really know history, don't listen to a lot of things that I've been told you. I'm telling you this. Okay, he came from Asahan in Medan, near Medan, to Penang. and my actually ancestor came from China, but he stopped at Delhi before going to Penang. Delhi is better. Okay. And the other thing, the Chinese presence in Malacca was very much earlier, with many who arrived across the straits from Palembang and other parts of Indonesia, where they had first settled. The Chinese were in Indonesia long before us, but they came to Malaya then. Okay, some later migrated to Singapore. When the British decided to move the administrative headquarters and port to Singapore. But Singapore was only founded in 1819. So if you think of Malacca, where the Chinese came from, you're talking of the main voyages of Cheng Ho or the traders, but lots of Chinese have been to Indonesia. 1400s, they were already there. They stayed in Indonesia and later moved to Peninsula Malaya there. So a lot of the patois in the south, you can see a lot of Indonesian words. Okay, but in Penang, of course, it's different. We speak Hokkien. So that's where I'm coming from. Hokkien is spoken by Penangites. We have retained our mother tongue, whereas the Southerners speak Baba Patois with differences, like how we address elders. Can you hear me at the back? Yes? Okay. So you have the way we even address our elders, you know. Like I will call my mother Mama, you know. The Southerners will say Nyonya, right? Yes? And then my grandmother is Ama in Hokkien, but the Southerners will call Mama. So that's a confusion. If I say Mama, if I come from Penang, you know I'm talking about my mother, but if you come from the South, you're talking about grandmother, what generation? So, and then of course we have Tuachi, you know, when you address me as Tuachi, I'm the elder sister, but in the South it's Tachi. So there are lots of words, like I said earlier, is like Wakan Tijang, is Nyonya Chang. Kusi, I'm sorry. We have things like Jiucha, the Southerners won't know, but then we have Jiucha, we have Hongba, we have Poroikan. But in the Southern, you have Pongte, which we don't do. We have Ite Sio, right? And you have Seba, right? Which we don't do. And then the other question, okay, I think I've covered the three differences. If you give me, I'll speak another half an hour. Sorry. so I think I answered your question. And thank you. Sorry, I got carried on.
Thank you, Lily, for sharing personal stories about the differences and the similarity between the Nyonyas of the North and the South. Very interesting to come back to her.